Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Underwriting assistance for our program is provided by the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing. Today on the Best of Oklahoma Gardening, we have a kaleidoscope of annuals that will brighten even the dullest of winter days. Stay tuned as we cover annuals from the largest to the smallest. Some will attract pollinators, but they're all sure to attract your attention. Today I wanted to show a couple of plants that you probably are not used to seeing in the Oklahoma landscape, and that is eucalyptus. We have 3 different eucalyptus that we planted in our gardens this season. Now, of course, we know that eucalyptus are not native to Oklahoma especially, and they are tropical, but there's no reason why you can't add them into your landscape. So the first one that I want to show with you is this lemon eucalyptus. These plants are actually been growing for 2 seasons, and they were planted out here when they were just a couple of feet tall last spring. But you can see how it has shot and taken off now and is about 12 feet tall. So eucalyptus, when you add it into the landscape, it's nice because it brings in this kind of grayish greenish foliage into your plant palette. Now lemon eucalyptus in particular, you're going to notice that it has kind of a sandpaper feel to the leaves that are lanceolate. If you don't want something that's this tall, you can easily control the height of it by planting it in a container, which will usually keep it around a height of about 4 feet. If you do plant it in the landscape, you want to make sure to stake it. You can see we had to stake ours with a T-post in there because the lemon eucalyptus in particular is very shallow rooted, and so it will flop, especially in our Oklahoma winds. Now traditionally, this will get to be about a 60-foot tall tree in its native Australia. Next to it here, we have another eucalyptus that is a little bit smaller, and I think it's because it got overshadowed by our lemon eucalyptus. But this one is our peppermint eucalyptus. Now I have to say, the lemon eucalyptus, smell of it is kind of comparable to the size. It's very pungent, whereas the mint is a little bit more of a mild smell to it. The other thing to kind of differentiate them is even though the leaves have these nice willow lanceolate-like shape that are similar to the lemon eucalyptus, it's much smoother. It's not sandpapery. Again, you'll notice, especially on the new growth, that you have some nice red branching on them as well. Now, it's a little deceiving in our landscape here, but actually the peppermint eucalyptus will get much taller again in its native Australia, reaching about 150 feet. The other thing that we can't really appreciate as an annual is that it'll develop this beautiful exfoliating bark when it becomes a mature tree. Now next to it we have one more eucalyptus that I want to share with you, and this is probably the eucalyptus that you're most familiar with, and far too often we see it as a fake plant in different hobby stores, and this is the silver dollar eucalyptus. You can see how it got its name by these silvery spoon-shaped leaves that are stacked on the stems. It's very unique foliage to add into the landscape. Again, that's why it's kind of fun to play with as an annual in your landscape design. Now the other thing that you'll notice about this is that it not only has different foliage, but again it'll have sort of that red stems to it, contrasting that blue foliage. And of course we've got that traditional eucalyptus fragrance that comes with this. So why settle for fake when you could go out and harvest your own fresh eucalyptus to put into your garden? Now again, all of these eucalyptus are annuals here in our Oklahoma landscape, so we're going to be removing them pretty soon. Again, they were just started, 2 of them, the lemon and the peppermint, were actually started by seeds 2 years ago, whereas this silver dollar, you can start it from cuttings. And so we're going to be taking cuttings from it again to overwinter for next year. Now, of course, if you're above zone 9 in North America, you'll probably be using this as an annual in the garden. Eucalyptus is, however, high in oils, as I mentioned, and often referred to as the gum tree. And when we're removing this is a good reminder that anytime you're removing or messing with plants that are either new to you or have high oil contents, you want to make sure to use some protection, some skin protection gloves and long sleeves in order to handle those, because you never know how you're going to react. Of course, eucalyptus we know is toxic to both humans and animals, except for the koala, which has adapted in order to eat it. Today we are joined by a guest here at the Botanic Garden, and you might recognize her from a previous segment. This is Diane Blazek, who is also the Executive Director of All America Selections. While we've talked to her in that capacity, she wears a second hat, and that's being the Executive Director of the National Garden Bureau. Welcome, Diane. Appreciate you coming today.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, Diane, tell us a little bit about the National Garden Bureau and what their role is.
National Garden Bureau is now 101 years old, wow. So we are even older than All America Selections. But our purpose and our mission is really to encourage and inspire people to do more gardening, to plant more plants.
And that's something we all love, right?
Exactly, right. So we love working with public gardens, and we have a lot of different programs that do that. One that I think you're very interested in is new plants. So we do a whole program. So if you want to know what's new from the industry, you go to our website and you click on new plants, and you're going to find out about what new petunia there is and what new perennial there is and what the new pepper is. And
this isn't just classified information for television hosts, right? It's for the consumer to find this information.
Exactly, right. Yeah, because they can go to our website and find it, and then hopefully go to their favorite local garden retailer and find it there.
So who are your people that you work with to get this information?
Yeah, it's actually the seed breed, not just seed, it's all breeding companies. It's way more than just seed now. Okay. So if there is a flowering shrub breeder, if there is a vegetable breeder, if there's vegetatively propagated breeders that are working with whatever crops, those are all of our members, and they submit their new varieties to us and we help market them.
Okay, and you also do horticulture related products too, is that correct?
Well, we also feature a lot of horticulture related products. Yes, from our members, the same kind of thing, like hard goods, like what's the newest and greatest knife or hoe or pruners or anything like that.
It's all kind of related there.
Exactly. Yeah, you need it all in your garden.
And tell us, there's another little program that you guys do, not little program, it's a national program, but about the plant of the year. So this is something that you regularly do. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We do, yes, and it's been growing like crazy, so it's really fun. It's called the Year of program, and what we do is we focus on a specific plant class, not a specific variety, because there are Year of programs out there, the specific varieties. So ours is, we have one annual, one perennial, one flowering shrub, one edible, and one bulb crop. Okay. So this year, the reason we're standing here is it's the year of the hardy hibiscus for our flowering shrub. And then our edible is the garden bean, which, I mean, there's so many different kinds of beans. Right. Our bulb crop is the hyacinth. I'm going to save the best for last, I think. Okay. Our perennial is the marinarda, and then our annual is the sunflower.
Yeah, we all love sunflowers. Right. And all of those do really well here in Oklahoma. So is that something that you look for when you're doing the plant of, is not Oklahoma, but just nationally, that they tend to do well across the country?
Yes, that is a criteria. And it doesn't always happen, but we try to. So like this year we may have a flowering shrub that does well just in a certain region. Well, next year then it will be one that's from all over. So, I mean, it is gardening. It is Mother Nature we're dealing with. So it's kind of hard to do one thing for everybody when we have so many different climates throughout North America.
Well, we do love our hardy hibiscus here in Oklahoma, as well as our sunflowers and other plants. So this is a great to know. So their website again is where you can find all of this information?
Absolutely. It's where you can go to be inspired. It's ngb.org.
Okay. Thank you so much, Diane.
Thank you.
Today I wanted to take a minute and share with you some of the All-America Selection annuals that we have on display here in our demonstration garden. Now, you've seen some of these previously mentioned. We mentioned the Big Duck series, the Big Duck Yellow and the Big Duck Gold marigolds, but they're a lot larger, and that's something different than what I want to show you today. Those, in fact, the Big Duck series are known as African or American marigolds, which are Tagetes erecta. Now, this particular one is a French marigold, which is known as Tagetes petula. So it's a different species of marigold, and as you can see, it's much smaller in stature. The Big Duck or the African marigold are usually much larger, whereas the French marigold are much more petite. But the nice thing about the French marigolds is they tend to really hold up because they're a bushier, sturdier plant. They really hold up well, especially in rainy seasons, which we have been experiencing this summer. Now, this superhero spray, what's really noted for it as being exceptional is the fact that it has so much consistency within each of its flowers. You'll notice that it has a really dark maroon lower petals and then the bright yellow center petals to it. And while it is more of a petite plant than the African marigold, it's going to give you a lot of bang for your buck in this bushy little plant. So now let's go take a look at some zinnias. Here's one zinnia that we just love to have in the garden, and this is called Queenie Lime Orange. And not only does it have a fun name, but it has a fun flower to match as well, with this dahlia-like flower that fades from a kind of a limey yellow down to more orangey pink colors. It's almost like an ombre of sunset colors there in this one flower. And you can see how large those flowers get also. And as you can see, it is a favorite among the pollinators. In addition to a pollinator garden, it works well in cut flowers with these really long stems that will last up to 3 weeks. Now, this particular zinnia is a Zinnia elegans, which is kind of related to some of the traditional old-fashioned zinnias that we used to have in our garden, our grandma's garden. But there's also another zinnia that I want to show you just down the way here. This is a Zinnia profusion red zinnia. Now, this particular one is a cross between the Zinnia elegans and the Zinnia angustifolias. So that cross combines and you really get the best of both of those types of zinnias, meaning that you have a more sturdy, stout, short, compact plant, but also one that is more disease resistant. In fact, it holds up really well to humidity, which a lot of times zinnias don't like because of powdery mildew. Now, this particular one was noted because it has exceptional red color that does not fade, especially in the heat of the summer, as that sun can get really strong on those, the color of the petals. You can see we still have a great color. Also, we still have plenty of buds that are still going to open up, which is a nice addition as well. Now, down the way, we also have a Zinnia bicolor red and yellow. It is also in the Profusion series, so you can see it has a very similar compact habit to the red Profusion Zinnia, but with a little bit different and more appealing flower because of the variability in it. You can see that the center has a nice kind of dark hot pink color to it. Then the tips of the petals are dipped in yellow, making a nice contrast. But as those flowers age, they start to take on more of an apricot rosy look to them. And so as you see, again, we're still getting new buds that are opening, so you still have that sharp contrast. But overall, you can see we have a lot of variability between the colors, creating a nice bouquet of different shades of color. Now, both of these Profusion zinnias are a nice addition to the garden because they don't need deadheading and, again, disease resistant. So while marigolds and zinnias have been around in the garden for many ages, they aren't the same ones that your grandma might have planted. As we finish out that fall landscape, which is so often recognized by the classic mum, especially the garden mum that we have, before we head into poinsettia season, we wanted to stop by King's Mum here in Sand Springs, Oklahoma, to talk with Brian Knotts. Brian, thank you for joining us and letting us be here to see your display.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for coming.
So let's first talk about what King's Mums is and what you guys are actually selling, because it's not the flowers, right?
No, we don't sell the flowers. So we sell small rooted cuttings. And we sell to public gardens, mail order only, public gardens, homeowners, and a lot of cut flower growers.
Yeah, so your product is very small that you're shipping
Yeah,
out at
it's
this point.
just a rooted cutting, hopefully in the 3 to 6 inch range with a root ball about the size, maybe a little bigger than a quarter.
Okay, so at this point though, I mean, a lot of times we're talking about mums blooming. A lot of times we've bought our small round mum, you know, for our either pumpkin or Thanksgiving display. But you've got quite a selection, and I know there are a lot of varieties. Can we talk through some of these?
Sure, love to.
What do we have here?
So chrysanthemums, people think of the garden type like you're talking about, the little mounded balls you see everywhere in the fall, but they're actually classified by flower form, kind of like a daffodil would be.
Okay.
So we've got 13 different classifications, but the last classification is unclassified, so those are just ones we like.
Okay, missed it.
So yeah, and this system was taken from Europe. They're really big into their flowers over there, you might have heard. So we've got all the different classes here just to give you an idea of what can be seen in chrysanthemums. A lot of these people just don't remember or have never seen.
Right, right. So, I mean, it's kind of, if you don't mind, talk through each one of them with us and tell us what we're looking at.
We can go through 1 through 13. So these are the irregular incurves. I think you remember these as the football mums that people called. And this is not as big as it can get. So that's class 1. Class 2 would be reflex, and this one in the front where the petals are reflexing down.
Okay.
So that's what we're really after in this one. Class 3 is incurve. It's a smaller incurve. It's not the really big ones.
So incurve meaning the petals
They will incurve down.
Okay.
So actually these will reflex down. So yes. So yeah, curved in. We probably need to redo that one. Class 4 is decorative, and this is probably the one people think of the most, but I wanted to show you some of the different forms with the petals because you wouldn't think of that as a decorative type.
Right.
But this is more commonly what you would see as that decorative flower.
Okay.
So then...
And these are big, so these aren't the football mums.
No, those are incurves as well. And that one is a special one that I picked out. That's actually a peacock type flower. That's the oldest one we have. And it was imported from Europe, and it dates back to 1920.
Wow, it's beautiful because it's got these kind of, I've never seen that on petals before.
Yeah, and you don't see that at all. There's only a few of them left, and as far as I know, I don't know of another one in this country that's being offered.
And are they all pink like this too?
That's the only cultivar I have like that.
Right.
So.
And the little button mums?
Yeah, pompons. Another really common one you see in the florist trade that's, commonly grown just because they can last so long.
Okay.
So people love those. And then the others, the single and semi-double is a daisy type flower.
Yeah, I was going to say with the classic eye.
Right, and they're really common again in the florist trade. You see those everywhere. Then we've got the anemones, and we've got some wild forms here with one. It's still in that classification, but to give you an idea of the different forms there. The spoons, and I really try to get you to look at it's really at the end where that spoon tip is, and you see the different sizes and different forms on those.
So the petal's actually kind of curled up, and then it opens up at the end.
Yeah, and it's that spoon at the end that makes it that, you can literally take that off and actually, you can imagine using it as a spoon if it would work for that. So these are quills, and we have different colors in there and just different sizes and shapes. So the quill has a tube at the end more. This one almost is a spoon, but it's not quite. It's more lance shaped.
Okay.
So it's similar to a spoon, but a little bit different.
All right.
And then these are, my daughter would call these fireworks, but they're the spiders. And I can see why she calls them fireworks. She just loves that. So that's what I call them now. And then
And are those old ones that haven't been in water?
Yeah, the mums are really late this year, but these are what are called thistle, brush or thistle types.
Okay.
And you really see those in the Japanese style.
Okay, so that's
they
the
love
look of
those.
them.
Yeah, there are just not many open. And then we've got just the other forms. They kind of hit one form or classification or another, but they don't meet all the criteria for classification. Okay. But they're really pretty.
Are they hybrids of some of these?
These are all hybrids. Okay. Chrysanthemums don't.
Yeah.
Growing them from seed is really, you never know what you're going to get.
Okay.
So once you do a hybridization, if you germinate that seed, they all could be different flowers.
Right.
So that's why you don't see them grown from seed much.
Which is why your role here in this position is so important, because you're providing cuttings to gardens all across the country, right?
Right, the gardens for historical purposes, and then we're maintaining the genes, the genetics. If we didn't do it, they might be lost in this country because we're about the last supplier of them left.
Wow, that's
So-
amazing. So as we look at this, obviously they're classified by their flowers, but they each take different forms
Yeah.
as plants too.
As plants or as we want them to take.
Okay.
So it just depends on what the plant will do,
Right.
or what you want the plant to do.
So often we
So-
look at something like this, but you get
Yeah.
trailing ones or even some much taller ones.
Yeah, and it's, again, the height variation, and this one could actually be even taller. I sprayed it with the growth regulator to keep it a little shorter.
Okay.
But when we write 4 to 5 feet, the plants can actually get 4 to 5 feet, taller even if you have enough time. I've seen them 8, 10 feet tall.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So obviously they all take on different forms, but some of that is manipulation based off of how you prune them, correct? Is that...
Yes, yeah, pruning or
Pinching.
training, tying, all of those things. So we've got this plant here, and this is the football mum that you alluded to earlier, and we talk about looking at these flowers and they be different, but this is just one flower, and this is where we get into disbudding to get a different form.
Wow.
So this, we just removed all the flowers, where these we didn't, and you can see how much larger that flower is.
Okay.
And this isn't even a great example. They can get much larger than that. That 8 to 12 inches for a football mum is not out of the question, and it's not fully relaxed yet and open.
Okay, so that center mum's usually the biggest. You've
Right, and
removed all the other ones.
you can see that right here on this stalk that I
Right.
left, where that middle one's
Oh,
the
that's the
largest.
middle,
Yeah,
okay.
if we had left it, removed all of these, you could do
Right.
that.
And that happens when the buds are very tiny, is that
Yeah,
correct?
before they're even open, you want to
Okay.
be doing that, because otherwise the plant's putting energy into flowers you don't want.
Right, right.
So-
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. You're not after the flowers, so why have you let all of these go to flower at this point?
I'm checking to make sure they're blooming right,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm human, I make mistakes, I take cuttings, I might take the wrong one, which I did this year, so now I don't have the right plant, and I don't want to sell that to someone next year. They're
Right.
expecting, a yellow flower, and I send them a pink one.
Okay.
So,
So what's
keep
your
going.
season kind of look like? Because I know most people are looking at buying mums, going into fall, but yours are being sold when?
I sell in the spring, so
Okay.
I open my sales in January. Depends on when I sell out, because I can only root so many. And then I start shipping in March, and that goes through to June. And it just depends on where you live and your facilities on when you might want them.
Okay, so
So-
yeah, because they'll be growing out longer for their
Right.
fall.
Right. So
this fall.
generally, I recommend, if you're a homeowner, get them around your last spring frost date.
Okay.
So, of course, this is Oklahoma, so that could be.
Who knows? So, well, Brian, hopefully we can make it back in the spring to see some of that propagation in action. And thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today.
You're welcome. I'll see you in the spring, hopefully.
Yes, thanks. I just love those annuals that really help transition our spring color all the way into our fall color that will soon be approaching. Now today I want to show you this luscious citron lantana, and a yellow lantana is nothing new to the market, but what I really love about this is it's more of a butter yellow versus the bright gold yellow that you often see on lantana, which makes it a nice complement to such a variety of colors, whether it's that bright spring color that you want to complement it with, or the softer oranges and reds as we transition into the autumn time. Lantana is a great addition to the garden because it allows that consistency through those seasons. Now, of course, we know that lantana is a nice durable plant, and you guys know that I often like to walk through our trial gardens here at the Botanic Garden, because a lot of times later in the season you can really start to see which annuals are proving themselves after a tough season. And of course, we've been in a drought, and so there are plants that are definitely showing some stress, but this lantana, it will stop you in your tracks as you're walking through the trials, because you can see here it is a showstopper. It's not proving to have any trouble with our drought conditions or the heat of this summer so far. So this luscious citron lantana is a nice addition to the garden. Of course, it continues to provide these flowers, numerous flowers throughout the season without any deadheading, and maintains a nice 2-foot height without any pruning or anything else. So a very low maintenance, drought tolerant annual to add into your garden. The other thing to keep in mind, while we love the flowers visually to be able to see them in our garden, what's nice about this, and we often think about it in the springtime, is providing nectar for our pollinators. But it's just as important to have those nectar sources available for our pollinators in the fall, as a lot of them will be migrating through. So not only do we appreciate those flowers, but the pollinators do as well. Luscious Citron Lantana is a nice annual to add into your landscape to help carry your garden from the spring all the way into fall. There are a lot of great horticulture activities this time of year. Be sure and consider some of these events in the weeks ahead. Next week, join us as we shift our focus from ornamentals to vegetables. To find out more information about show topics as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure to visit our website at oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. And we always have great information, answers to questions, photos, and gardening discussion on your favorite social media as well. Join in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows, as well as individual segments, on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. Tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater gem. We would like to thank our generous underwriter, the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is also provided by Pond Pro Shops, Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, the Oklahoma Horticultural Society, and Tulsa Garden Club.